If you enjoy our videos and podcasts and would like us to continue putting out regular quality content, head over to patreon.com/aircrewinterview, where you can donate monthly, and in return you will get rewards ranging from early interview viewings, bonus clips, credited as a producer, and much more. Thank you and enjoy.
We're getting ready. They said maybe the F-106 should go down and fight in Vietnam. And so they said, okay, we'll use the F-106s as a defensive cover for a strike force going in. And simulating the strike force, they had an F-101 going in at low level, pretending to be an F-105s.
Okay.
And F-104s, pretending to be MiGs, would attempt to attack the F-101. Mm-hmm. And the F-106s were supposed to defend. Now, to simulate North Vietnam and the radar situation, the F-104s would be given all the radar information about where we were, but we would not be told anything about where they were.
Okay, right.
Now, we did know as the strike force came in, and we came in with a strike force, about when it was going to occur, because we're entering the air warning area but this was going to be a very high-speed attack. And we knew as we came in that the F-104s, we didn't know where they were to begin with, but when they showed up, they would be at 6 o'clock behind us and closing rapidly. Okay? And they had guns. Mm-hmm. So they had to track us. So we're going in there with 4 F-106s against 4 F-104s. And we're going in, and I'm looking around behind me as much as I could. And by the way, the visibility in the 106 is not as bad as people said. Everyone said you can't see out of that cockpit. You could see out of it. I could see my wingtips. I could see actually into my intakes a little bit. Okay. So I could see a lot better than people think. Mm-hmm. And I was looking around behind, and there was the F-104 closing supersonic on me. Now, because we're going with the strike force down below, we're subsonic. But one of the advantages of subsonic is you can turn more sharply than somebody who's going supersonic.
Yeah.
So I looked, and there's this 104 coming in right behind me, high speed. So I racked it into an immediate left turn. And, of course, he overshot. He couldn't possibly hack my turn. So he's going whistling past me, and I reversed and lit the afterburner. And now he's going away from me, and I'm in full afterburner, and he knows I'm back there, and he's in full afterburner. And I'll say one thing about the F-104, it was fast. There's nothing, the 106 in afterburner is no slouch, but he was 0G'ing away to get more acceleration as he's diving down, and I locked onto him with my radar right away, and he was leaving me at over 200 knots. How fast he was going away. So he's going like a scalded ape. And I'm behind him, dropping back, but I'm still onto him. And he was going down. He went down fairly low, where I couldn't see him anymore. He was so far away. And the land was there, I couldn't see him. And then my radar, I locked on, the steering dot started from showing me to go down, suddenly goes bloop, 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 and comes up. I said, that son of a bitch, he's climbing. He's zooming up. He's going to do an Immelman off reverse and turn over and come back into the fight. Yeah. So I knew what he was doing. I got my missiles selected. Of course, we didn't have missiles on board. And so as he came up, I came in, I cut him off on the top and got my kill. as a right across the top.
Yeah.
And so I got my kill with the F-104. So the F-104 was a very fast plane, but really Vietnam was not the place for the F-106. We did not have radar warning receivers, so we were not aware of any SAMs that would be launched at us.
Mm-hmm.
And also, the MiGs never did really just want to fight for the sake of fighting.
Mm-hmm.
If we went out there and cruised up there, the F-106 is a high-altitude plane. We like to go, I say it's king of the high-altitude skies.
Yeah.
We'd go up and fly around at 40,000 feet, and they'd never come up to us.
Wow.
You know, they wouldn't have come up. They wouldn't fight. They were only after the planes that were carrying the bombs.
Mm-hmm.
And the planes that were carrying the bombs were down low because they were loaded. And low altitude is not the place for the F-106.
Yeah.
There's so many others that can match us down there. So Vietnam was not the place for the F-106. But the problem the F-4s had with missiles was not the missiles problem. It was the F-4's problem. They didn't have that computer that was able to plan the attack properly.
Mm-hmm.
So those are my 3 F-106 stories.
And they're absolutely brilliant stories here, Bruce. But I'm going to ask you a quick question because I would like to know what... during your time, obviously in the Air Force, what was the banter like between, like the F-106, F-4 communities? Like, was there much banter there between them and who was best kind of thing?
Oh, of course, we didn't like the F-4s. One of my best stories was when we went to Korea and we were flying the missions protecting the eland birds. They had an exercise. And the exercise was the F-4s were going to be going out to sea and then coming into Korea loaded with bombs. And they're going to strike at a range. And the F-106s were going to do air defense. And make a long story short, one of my friends was paired on an F-4 coming in at low altitude at high speed. And he came in, he was faster, of course, than the F-4, because the F-4 was carrying bombs. But he came right on in and called his kill on the F-4, and he's pulling up past the F-4. When the ground controller says, "Get his tail number." And he was passing him at that moment. So he chops the power idle and opens the speed brakes, but he's whistling on past. He didn't get a chance to get the tail number. And so you talk about banter. So that night at the Officers Club at Osan, the F-106 had our tables and the F-4s had their tables. And an F-4 pilot came over to us. He said, "What an insult." He said, "Here we are coming in just as fast as we could. And along comes this F-106 zipping past us with his speed brakes open."
What a story.
So that was the kind of banter, and they never did approve of us. They were having trouble with the missile, and it wasn't until much later that I learned that the problem was the F-4, not the missile.
And one last question for myself, Bruce, before we wrap up. Do you ever get to, is there like any F2, F6 reunions that you get to go to?
Oh, F-106 reunions, yes. Yes, we've had them quite frequently. They're dying off now, shall I say. We're getting all older. But I was planning to go to one in March of this year, and down in Florida, and I was planning to be there with some videos and stories, and was going to tell some stories, because this was a reunion mostly of the ground crews.
Okay, right.
The ground crews didn't get enough respect, and I was sort of a maintenance man, and I appreciated the ground crews, and there were so many stories like these that they hadn't heard.
Right.
And so I was going to go down and tell the ground crews the various stories of the F-106 and the missiles that were so important to us. And some of the malfunctions, there were some pretty exciting things that happened. Nearly killed me once, but that's the way it goes. That's why you get the big bucks. Yeah.
Of course. But yeah, Bruce, what a pleasure having you back on the channel. But yeah, I know you've mentioned it before, but if you can briefly tell us again where we can find your book and what the name of your book is, that would be absolutely brilliant.
Okay, my book is The Spirit of Attack, and it is available on Amazon for something like $32, but that's too much to pay for it, and I don't get very much of that $32 after they take their cuts and all that. And so if people will send $20, this is people in the States, because overseas the postage is horrendous. It's more than the cost of the book. Mm-hmm. Just terrible. So if they send $20 to Bruce Gordon, 105 Broadbill Court, Broadbill Court, in Georgetown, Georgetown, Kentucky, 40324. I'll pay the postage and I'll pay the taxes. Yet I'll still make more money than if you buy it on Amazon.
Awesome, Bruce. Yeah, if you send me that information over, I'll make sure our viewers and subscribers get that information. But yeah, also you have I've been on your Facebook channel quite recently, and there's some great videos and stuff like that. So tell us about your Facebook group that you that you have at the moment.
Yes, I have a Facebook page, Spirit of Attack, and I keep up with modern things at the top. But my videos, go to videos, because they're at the bottom. And there's more than 20 videos down there. Well, I like some of the British things. My story about the meeting Reginald Jones, mm-hmm. the father of electronic warfare, as they call it, mm-hmm. and actually having lunch with him. I was fascinated by his stories and read his books later. And so I have many stories of, I was pleased by the British, and they gave us a German buzz bomb that they had captured, V1, and we tried to make one, and everything was, the Germans could make it, but we couldn't make it fly. So the rules were that it had to look like a German V1 on the outside.
Yeah.
We could put anything in it that we wanted to. But ours wouldn't fly until actually the war was over. Mm-hmm. Later on, we modified it and it became the Regulus, mm-hmm. one of our first cruise missiles. So it was that technology that we got from a V1 that Britain gave us.
Yes, of course, yeah.
Was good. So I have a lot of respect for the Brits on that. Oh, and your Vulcan bomber,
Oh, the Vulcan, yeah. Beauty, isn't it?
I could not believe the performance of the Vulcan bomber. So I really appreciate that.